Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Something slightly different today. During the last video that I posted, I offered to post another video of a game that I cut from the Lyra Festival deck. Um, and I have decided to do a bit of a deep dive into that rather than playing out another three games. Life stuff got in the way, so we're taking a break of it. But I did want to post something just to keep that consistent, and I definitely did promise to do that. Um, so what we're going to do, this is a Nevenka and Blotch mirror matchup, um, which sort of is a bit funny. In the altered world, obviously your decks are never going to be exactly the same, and if they are, it's a massive coincidence. But even that being said, the uniques will be different, of course, as well, because they won't be able to own the ones you own. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through a small, slightly more detailed look through this game, see what it is that we can glean from it, and see if we made any proper mistakes or anything that we could have done better. And we'll go there. So I'll also let you know sort of what it is I'm thinking throughout the game as well. So here is our opening list, or our opening hand, sorry. A couple of bit notables. We've got a unique in hand, one of our two Lyra festivals, so we've only got two of those in the deck at the moment, and two copies of Aloe Vera as well. I'm really resistant to keeping two copies of the same card. Generally, a diversity of options is advisable unless you're playing, unless you've got two of the best card that you have in the deck. So that's an easy take, and we've got two sources of card advantage left over, the Creepier and the Aloe Vera. The Aloe Vera, a little bit more flexible early in the game. You can play it for 3, bump that up to 4 if you want to keep it around. And as such, we're likely to keep just that one as well. We've got the Nyala against the Lyra Festival as well. Been a little bit unimpressed with the Nyala throughout the games that we've played with it, only because I found that we have a lot more instances of resupply than draw. So you've got the Mage Dancer and you've got potentially the Croupier to draw cards. It's going to be a resupply whenever you fail as well. And obviously less rares than commons in the deck, so we're likely to get rid of that one as well. Now, I don't think I could fault someone for choosing to keep the Croupier over the Lyra Festival as well. Just play to the board a little bit more, but it is nice to have that as an option, and obviously we're just playing to a 1 out if we get rid of that one, so it's good to keep around potentially. In the background, the commentary over this game, I am probably making a lot of similar comments, but I'm hoping they're a little bit more thought out now that I'm doing it as a proper game review. I guess I'll find out after this whether it's better or not. So two options here. We could play the Cloth Dancer or the Aloe Vera. The opportunity cost of playing the Aloe Vera here is that we won't be able to anchor it. So I think it's a pretty up and down standard option to play the Cloth Dancer here. It does have the added bonus of being able to give whatever they play fleeting, and if they choose to play 2 cards, we have the potential of giving 2 cards fleeting as well. However, because we're on the play, they'll play 1 card, we'll have the option of giving it fleeting, and then if they play another card, we won't, because we will have passed at that point. Alright, so our opponent plays a snowman. Can't give that thing fleeting, but we get to do it anyway. Now we've got the option here of rolling our Nevenka ability. Always thinking about it in terms of rolling a dice, obviously. Played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons in my time, so the odds on d6s are pretty much burned into my head. So we've got a 1 in 6 chance of giving it anchored. We've got a 4 in 6 chance of getting a +1 boost, and we've got a 1 in 6 chance of sending it to the bin, which is a sad time. Now, of these options, we have these are the good ones. This one here is happy time. This doesn't really matter though. So we're really rolling, basically making a roll with a 1 in 6 chance of failing for 2/3 chance of nothing happening, and then 1 in 6 chance of being a good roll. No reason to go behind for next to no reason, or a 1 in 6 chance of keeping our cloth dancer around. So we're going to pass here, roll the 2, give it fleeting, send it off to the bin. Virtual card advantage by ripping something from our opponent's reserve is not too bad, but it's probably the least valuable card in their hand, so we'll see how that pans out. We share expeditions, go up a card, technically, and then we see what we want to do. On our draw step, we got a Paper Herald and a Tinkerbell, another one of our uniques. The Paper Herald has been, pulling its weight definitely throughout the games that we've had it in. Really good addition, really flexible. Evens out your curve as a 1-drop, and the Sabotage being one of 3 sources of that in the deck, also going to be good. So what you're going to see us do here is we're going to get rid of the Lyra Festival, give up that one in order to challenge our opponent on board a little bit. And what that does is it puts them under a little bit of pressure as well, so they have to sculpt a hand in order to try and make their way back into the game if we can get ahead, rather than threatening a Lyra Festival win. The point of the rare copy is to sort of surprise your opponent once you hit that 7 or 8 or 9 mana, depending on how expensive your cards are. And we see a Tanuki out of our opponent, so getting rid of that. Not being able to play out the Cloth Dancer, we still have 3 options for creatures. We'll hold on to the Tinkerbell here and play our Aloe Vera. So we've got 2 options here. Playing the Aloe Vera, we can either pay the 1 in order to give it anchored, or we could play out the Paper Herald here. There are merits to both options. Keeping it around and actually getting our resupply means we get to see more cards, have more options down the track, but we could also potentially play the Paper Herald. And as you see, we choose to pass, so we've locked in on playing the Paper Herald. Reason being, still learning Power Tools or Zoom it, whatever it's called. We're just in blue here. So the Tanuki being 0 blue and us being able to advance means we actually get a double advance forward here. And we were really quick on the decision to activate our Nevenka. So pulling that up again, I'll be writing it out. 1 in 6 chance to get anchored, 4 in 6 chance to get a boost, and a 1 in 6 chance to go to reserve. But the outcomes for what we could potentially get out of it have changed. So obviously keeping anchored around is good. The 4 in 6 chance of getting a boost actually does nothing for us because they'll be able to advance no matter what. However, we don't entirely lose out if we send the Paper Herald to reserve, because we can always use its support ability and win here. And as we've already committed to trying to get a double advance on our opponent, we've decided to target the Paper Herald with our hero. See what we get. We end up getting a 3, so that was part of our 4 in 6 chance for nothing interesting to happen. But we could have used the support ability to catch that back up, and it would have been fine. I would have been okay with losing access to the Paper Herald. These 2 mice are really distracting. However, keeping it in the reserve, I really think, yeah, one drops from reserve are very good. Early in the game they can allow you to maximize your mana when your opponent thinks, oh, maybe they couldn't have played anything. Or the most important part of it though is considering them as a sort of, pay one mana for an after you effect. So you get to see more of what your opponent does. If you are on the first play of the turn, you play a one drop and they play something less, you've sort of gained information from them there. Now, we've drawn a Mage Dancer, which is one of the best cards that we have for tempo in the deck, or for the, actually winning the game the way it's intended side of the deck. And we're sort of just trying to map out what our turn could look like here. We have a few options, so let's pull that open. So it could be Aloe Vera plus Paper Herald with the +1 is our 5 mana. However, we have some other options here as well. So we could play the Aloe Vera plus the Mage Dancer with no +1. We could Tinkerbell plus Mage Dancer as well, and that would be potentially a lot of stats, but we'll sort of go through that in depth here. So these are the kind of options I'm thinking about. For playing slow, getting our resupply and keeping our options open, this could be an option. Option 1, basically it keeps something around on board. For our tempo option, we have option 2, and then sort of, I'm not really considering it, but option 3 is one as well. So let's go through all of those. Keeping a card around, playing the Aloe Vera plus Paper Herald as a way to, get something on board would generally be the desired option if we were playing in blue. So this factors into our decision because our Aloe Vera being 4 power in blue, and it's actually the only place where it's mana positive or mana neutral, if we add the 1, means we're not getting the full value out of this card, and we're likely giving up that side, especially because we can see our opponent has the Tanuki, which does beat our Aloe Vera in these 2 expeditions that we're challenging on both sides. So we've kind of scrapped that as an option. Tinkerbell being played here is generally seen as low value as well, because as you can see it's got 4 power in the blue, so we're not getting any value out of that. Same reasons as the Aloe Vera. And sabotaging the Tanuki is not a great idea. So we've sort of landed on Aloe Vera, not keeping it around and playing the Mage Dancer. And this has the added advantage of using the Paper Herald support ability as well. So this is a lot of versatility based on what our opponent does. So thinking about the dice rolls, we can get our Mage Dancer up to 3 power, so we get the 2 boost, 1 from rolling a die, potentially, most likely, 1 from Nevenka and Blotch herself. We've already drawn it up a couple of times, but yes, 2/3 chance of getting a boost. We'll probably go over that dice roll as well, weigh up the pros and cons of what it would look like. But you can see me in the background here just thinking about what we're doing. So that is the thought process that I went through at this time. Ways to maximize our mana, whether there can be advantage received from not doing anything, doing something that doesn't maximize the use of our mana, so maybe just playing the Aloe Vera or Mage Dancer and Paper Herald on one side just to secure. But because we are ahead here by 1 expedition, we want to try and press that advantage or maintain it as best we can. So our opponent here plays the Tanuki, and we counter that by playing our Mage Dancer on the opposite side. Obviously, our opponent can't play the Tanuki on this side because they're playing in blue, so we expected it to come out here, and that gives us a choice to be made, basically. So our opponent plays a Yongsu Verdant Weaver. Let's hope that our little mouse friend here reads over that. Oh, apparently we don't care. So our options here were to target one of our creatures to play the hero ability on. Let's go through that quickly. So getting good at this. 4 and 6, 1 and 6. So we know what these are for. This is anchored, +1 boost, sent to the bin. We've targeted our Mage Dancer with Navenka and Blotch's ability, and what that does is it'll actually give us the check mark on green as our opponent is out of mana to do anything. So that's the decision we made. I probably played through that a little bit quick because we did have other options that I didn't really consider. However, what we've done by activating this before using our Paper Herald support abilities that we've given ourselves a chance to maybe do something a little bit different. So by targeting the Mage Dancer, this will go up to 3 if we get our 4 and 6 roll. It'll be up to 2 power if we get this one. So actually, I think at this point, considered getting an anchored roll a disappointing outcome. And then obviously sending it to the bin is just, never the done thing. So we've got a 2 in 3 chance of getting what we want. We could have potentially targeted the aloe vera as well. And what that would have done was that would have given us these exact same options, depending on what we rolled. However, the Mage Dancer would have just gone up to 2. And what that would have done is it would have tied this expedition here. Alright, so let's try this once more. Say this was 3, 3, 3, 5, right? And this was 2, 2, 2. We actually would have been tied here, so neither of us would have advanced. And then had we played the Paper Herald on the Mage Dancer side, we would have been at this 3 power that we've got now, so we would have got the check mark, our opponent would have got the check mark, we both would have advanced. But what's the difference, right? So the way we've got it set up, we could play over here, stop them from moving. So say we play the Mage Dancer as it is. All we've done in this situation is we've decided we're going to put the Mage Dancer on this side. We'll get the check mark here. Our opponent won't move. Our opponent will move here instead. So they're effectively here, we're here, and everyone else stays put. This was probably the better option in hindsight, because keeping us on blue would have been good for the Tinkerbell, and then obviously stuff like if we'd drawn another aloe vera or Paper Herald, our blue stats are just generally higher than our greens. But what we can see, we've got no brown, so this is bad, this is good. However, what we do is we think about this for a little bit, and what you'll see us do is not what I've talked about here, spoilers. So it makes for a little bit of a confusing point in the video, very sorry. But we played the support ability and we put it on the side of the aloe vera. Stop our opponent from moving here, we keep it green. So nobody moves on this side, we both advance forward here. So we do get a little bit more information. Could have got that either way. And they keep their Tanuki around as well. So they rolled the dice there. They had a, just a flat 1 in 6. Okay, finally we get to see the Yongsu. It discards a permanent if they have 3 base stats of 0 or more. Completely irrelevant to the state of the game. Now, our opponent was risking letting us move forward here. Had they rolled a 1 instead of a 6, they had the exact same amount, amount of outcomes there. To go behind, we would have been forward, and we would have been just 1 away or 2 away from winning. But our opponent's behind, so they have to take those sorts of risks, I guess. The 4 in 6 chance of moving forward would have been very good for them. And the 1 in 6 chance of keeping it around, obviously what happened, also good for them. Now, we've got some options here. We found out that we are in green and blue once we've advanced here, which is good. Didn't see that one before, so it was either going to be this one or this one, depending on the which side of the card that was laid out. But that's good for a couple of reasons. So, 2 cards that we drew were a Nice, I don't know, and a Martingale. This guy is fantastic. Definitely something we want to be seeing a lot more of, so we're very happy to see her. And Nice is a form of card advantage that we can sort of gain as well. Now, we've got a lot of options here. We're thinking about it. So, we could get rid of the Nice. We do get maximum value out of its stats by playing it on this side, and rolling the die is good as well. The rolling the die on it is good as well because it boosts our Mage Dancer. And, sorry, I've sort of skipped over it there, but we decided not to play anything into our reserve, playing anything into our mana pool here. Now, why is that? So, we've thought about it. We're gone behind. We're always going to be behind if our opponent chooses to put a card into mana from here on in. But there are, very specific reasons about why I chose not to play add to our mana pool here. And mostly it's because putting one in our mana pool doesn't actually really gain us anything. So if we stay on 5, 1 plus either 3 or 3 plus 1 is our 5. But what do we get out of going up to 6? Basically, we have the option of playing Tinkerbell and Nice. Now, this isn't really a good option. Obviously, we can get rid of Yongsu, which is fine. Not going to be too mad about that. And playing our Nice, we can go ahead. But playing 3 cards instead of 2, especially in this situation where we get so much advantage out of rolling, is definitely what we want to be doing. Okay, so our opponent plays a Martingale. And we've got basically 2 options here. We can either play the Mage Dancer first, or our own opposing Martingale. Now, our Martingale will cancel out the stats on theirs, and we're in green on this side as well. So this sort of protects that card. Or this sort of keeps our options most open, but we are susceptible to sabotage with the Mage Dancer. So because we don't want to lose the options, we've actually, taken, actionable sacrifice to make this happen by not putting anything into mana. I believe you'll see us here click on the Mage Dancer. Now, are we more worried about targeted removal or sabotage? Out of Lyra decks, definitely the sabotage with the Tanukis. Maybe they have something else as well. you know, depending on how wacky they get. They could get rid of it with the cloth cocoon, but that's basically trading 1 mana for 3, which is likely close to a death sentence in this game. Alright, our opponent plays an Ouroboros Trickster, gets the low roll. The low roll is actually quite significant here, because it means our niece is actually going to progress straight ahead if they did nothing else. We can see they have a 4-drop in here, so that's a no-go. They can't play that. And we're going to be playing the niece into this side anyway. It maximizes the amount of stats it gets. Obviously, it doesn't stop them from progressing, but we have a lot of options. That's the dice roll, so it's a +1 there. And you'll see us either play out the Martingale as a way to see what our opponent does with their last card, or just play the niece. I believe it's the Martingale. Now, this is potentially I'm not going to call it a mistake, but playing the Martingale out on this side doesn't really achieve much, I guess. So we know with our niece in hand and our Nevenka and Blotch guaranteed not to send our card to the bin, that we actually have access to 4 power here. So if they do nothing with their remaining card, we actually would have won here, no matter what. We'll see what they choose to do, and we know what we're going to do next, which is play that little niece. Okay, so it's an a cappella training. So we're not too stressed about that. We'll play out the niece. Oh, okay. Now, I suppose this is an interesting option. Sorry, just thinking through it again. I've surprised myself. Now, playing the Tinkerbell out actually does win us the expedition on this side. However, playing the Martingale over here now gives us the option of doing that and still winning on this side. Because if we play Tinkerbell, we don't get the dice roll from the niece, so this only goes up to 3, which means we're 4-4-1 on this side, and we do win. And we'll see what we decide to go with. Maybe I'm smarter than I look. Alright. We do make the decision. Getting rid of the a cappella training is important. Sending that to the bin with our Tinkerbell means that we get to keep whatever it is that we play. Had we played the niece out here, they would have been able to send that into the bin, and we would have just kept the Tinkerbell around for not as much reason. Not the most high priority target, but a very important one here, because it keeps cards in our hands. Alright, they use their Nevenka and Blotch ability. They target Tanuki. They give it a +1. They pass the turn. Now, let's go through the math for, rolling a die with Nevenka and Blotch on the field. It does make it a little bit different. There's a simplified version and a non-simplified version, I suppose. And we'll go through both of those. So, what Martingale does, it was shown on screen a little bit earlier, but basically whenever you roll a die, d6, you add 1 to it. So, what that does is it takes our regular 1 in 6, 4 in 6, 1 in 6, shifts these all over. So what we actually get is we have a 2 in 6 chance to roll anchored, and a 4 in 6 chance to get +1. So this just gets eliminated. but technically it moves down into here, and then one extra goes up into here as well. That's the simplified version. A lot of the time, keeping anchored around will, um, be advisable. So basically, if you just always take the higher roll, this is what happens. But it can get a little bit more complicated as well. So basically, you have 1 in 6, 4 in 6. Try and do this again. I've been drawing this a lot. And then you've got two different options once you eliminate this. Actually, let's do that again. I've got a better idea. Okay. So 1 in 6, 4 in 6, 1 in 6. I'm not re-recording it at this point. We've already turned I'm not re-recording everything. It turned a 13, 14 minute game into actually something a little bit longer than that. So what we've got here, our high rolls, the ones that we actually want to keep, the ones that aren't permanently a bad time, you can actually add this into either one. So either it can be our 2 in 6, 4 in 6, the one that we showed earlier, or if you roll a 5, you have the option of getting of choosing a 6 or a 5. So you can go one of two directions, depending on what is advisable for the play that you're choosing to make. Now, that matters because what we will be trying to do here is actually going for the less obvious choice, or the less obvious option here, of having a 5 in 6 chance of getting a +1. So if we roll anything other than a 6, we'll be getting +2 on this side, and tying it up. So they won't advance there. We won't advance as well, but we will like the position we're in. So we'll see what we choose to do. Now we're going to target the martingale here. This is almost always the correct option. We roll a 3. We don't get to keep it around. However, whenever I'm given the chance to target a martingale or something else, I usually target the martingale because it gives you access to those different options with the dice rolls for an extra turn, which is a big deal. Playing out the martingale on this side did end up actually being a good choice. Who'd have thought? It stopped our opponent from advancing here once again, basically meaning we didn't have to target the mage dancer with it. However, had we played the martingale on the other side, we would have targeted it, gained a boost, and they wouldn't have advanced here. So if the martingale is over here, the end result would be that they get the check mark here, and they don't advance here. So we stay ahead. Obviously, our opponent had other choices as well. Had I decided to play the martingale over here, they might have just played the croupier elsewhere and sort of sacrificed that side. Who knows? But yeah, obviously all of these are decisions made from my side of the field. Don't really have a lot of bearing on what our opponent can choose, although we do try to consider their options. This is a big deal. Then our opponent has 0 cards in hand, which is good for us, and they've got to get rid of one of their cards as well. So at most they're going to have access to 4 cards if they put something in mana, maybe 3. However, if they're cluey, they might have seen that they're actually ahead on curve, so they might keep the extra cards around. So we'll be planning for 4, and considering 3 as well, especially now that they've got rid of their big card. Alright, this is fine, we'll say. We drew a resupply and a draw/resupply as well. So we've got the Esmeralda, we've got the Croupier, we've got the Niece. Basically whatever we play, we have access to more cards. So what our choice will be is to send the croupier to mana. Probably doesn't need to be worth stating, but because that one's costs 4 mana to play, putting it into mana takes us up to 6, means we can play both the Tinkerbell and the Niece this turn if we so choose, which I believe we will. Now, the double sabotage coming in clutch here, really big fan of that effect. We're going to get rid of the croupier because as powerful as the Martingale's effect is, it means they can't likely use more of their mana, having put another mana into reserve. If I were them, I probably would have kept a card around. It was likely free. Alright, so our opponent really has only one thing that they can do. Either put the Martingale in this side or this side. Unfortunately, we're playing on the two fields that actually the Martingale sees. If we were playing in blue, we could have probably threatened something there, but we also have 2 cards that have zeros where the Martingale does as well, so we can't actually stop them from moving forward here. We're going to pass, taking the 1 in 6 chance to send our card to the bin right here is pretty devastating for where we're at in the game, considering the board state. They get to keep their Martingale around. They didn't have to worry about sending the Martingale to reserve, and thus the graveyard, unless they wanted to. Alright, and finally we drew a sleight of hand and a silent night. So a way to give something sleep and a way to put something back into hand. Now, putting something in reserve into mana, means we go up to 7. So what we do at this sort of point in the game is that we count. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we would be able to play all 4 cards in our hand if we got rid of the Niece. I believe that's what we end up doing, although we did have other options. We could have potentially played him out, though he's the only creature we have on the field, or in hand, or reserve, that has green. So playing him out here means he would be completely unsupported, and we'd have to try and challenge on this side with our remaining cards. But we could only do that with 1, so we're not really getting the maximum amount of our mana here. I think through it for a second. Silent Night, again, card I'm not too impressed with. I think I'd talk about that in the debrief. We'll try and upgrade that to rare next time. It's going to be way better. Super keen for that, actually. So at best, it gives something anchored or asleep, but if we target one of our creatures, obviously we want to get that 1 in 3. And so, we could potentially look at that, targeting the Martingale and sort of keeping it around for 1 turn longer but not having any stats. But I see a play that we can make here with the specific cards we have in hand. We send the Niece to reserve like we discussed, because we have 7 mana's worth of cards to play remaining. And we get to see what our opponent does first. Now, they play a Mage Dancer. We're really excited about this. We're fist pump in the air. We're dropping party poppers. We're super excited at the moment, because we get to make a pretty good play as far as I'm concerned. Sleight of hand, the Nyala. Yeah, the Nyala would have worked here as well. Just would have cost a lot more mana and we had less to do. But the sleight of hand lets us swap Silent Night and Sandman into play, which gives us access to the hand ability of that one. And that's what we choose to do. Protects it from sabotage as well. if the last card in their hand is potentially Tanuki. And you can just see me thinking about that here. It takes me a while. You get to cut down on all that thought, but now I have to fill all of this time with just mindless jibber jabber. But we've got, yeah. So you see, we think about it there. We're like, oh, we'll just play the Sandman. You know, the odds are we could get ahead, but we're actually gonna find the line here. We'll swap those two cards around. Now, this is good. It gets our hand ability in the field back into play, because we don't have that if the Sandman is in reserve. He's just, you know, basically on rate stats at the moment on this side, and we actually end up losing nothing because I believe Silent Night, you know, playing that from reserve is not significantly worse than playing it from hand. See what our opponent wants to do. They've only got one card in turn, one card in hand, but they do activate their ability. Now, not really much they can do here, but they target the Mage Dancer. Now, if our opponent was paying full attention, they would have seen what they could have done. They've gone for a 50-50 roll as well. So they put their own Martingale to sleep. You know, under normal circumstances or in the early to mid game, that's not really a bad option. Just keeping it around is the most important thing. So we get to actually put our Mage Dancer's opponent to sleep. They get nothing. We could play with them here. You know, we even get the 1 in 6 roll here. You know, we like to roll dice. Just in case. And then we advance and win. Definitely didn't have to roll the die there, but you know, that's the game. So, a couple of things. Our opponent was playing some suboptimal stuff, I suppose. The Snowman and the Yongsu. Definitely didn't get the maximum value out of those. You know, not being in blue and getting it sent to reserve, or being in blue and getting it sent to reserve anyway. You know, that's really what you want to do. In these mirror matchups, it's all about a couple of things, because your decks likely overlap. Your card pool is so similar. Maximizing the value out of your cards is very important. But tempo is actually more important than you would think, because if you're playing against a Bravos deck or an Orders deck or a Ysmir deck or something, anything different, even a different hero in Lyra, it's the points in the game where your cards are strong and where your cards are weak are likely very different from your opponents, and as such you need to try and identify those points and make sure that you're getting the advantage out of them that you are. However, incremental advantage in a mirror matchup specifically, I believe, is much more likely to win you a game in those situations. You know, let's say we had a Cloth Cocoon in hand and we played a Mooner opponent that had Hydrocana and we got to get rid of it for some reason. You actually can't, but say they played something and we could discard it and we gained a lot of tempo that way. That's a really big point for value. But tempo comes up here. I don't know what I'm drawing here. An upside down crown. Guy with the mustache, who knows? I've kind of started rambling, I'm very tired. Anyway, eking out an advantage in holding on to it is much more likely to win you a game when you know your opponent can't catch up at different points in the game. If your opponent can outmuscle you or your opponent can get too far ahead in other matchups, you know, that's their win condition. But with this, we sort of played expecting that our opponent couldn't really get ahead of us consistently at any point in the game. They could have surprised us with a festival win, but we never really let them got there. They had to play things out, and then it sort of just lined up really well for us. I'm not going to lie. These last few turns of cards that we drew were very lucky, but we'll take that. When your cards are, you're playing likely 25 to 30 of the same cards as your opponent. Sometimes you just get luckier, and sometimes that's where, that's the difference maker. I hope this was fun. A lot of drawing. I really enjoyed that. So I hope you did too. Slightly different look at the game that I play normally, and hopefully something there's interest in the future. So, thanks for your time. Really appreciate you. Sorry I didn't get a full video out this week. I think we're doing a 10 subscriber special next week. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if you can figure out the pattern after that. 2 games or 2 videos might not be enough to figure out a pattern, but then again it might be. So look forward to that one. I definitely am. I hope to see you all again soon. Appreciate you. Bye.